Now that the pencil lines are done, we basically start to eyeball the engine for lettering. And as we look at lettering, the first really important thing to do is to look at where the basic brakes and the paint lay on the engine. And usually when I look at it, like if I look at a photo, or in this case I'm looking at the drawing, like some of the easiest places that you can kind of see is that you see, okay, well, this separation here between the red and the orange goes basically right at the cab, right underneath the windows. So you kind of say to yourself, okay, well, if it goes right through the windows, you basically say, well, that's, in this case, right at almost 2 inches. So you say, okay, well, that's, and I'll even be very precise, it's 61/64. That's, I know, very, very precise seeming, but it's pretty important to be pretty precise, because what you do is you say, okay, it's 61/64. Because what you need to do is you go, here's a place on the train, 61/64 and 61/64, and then right here it's 61/64. And what happens is that you basically, you draw and you see that the brake stops right there because there's the black anti-glare, and you look for these little marks that you make, because one of the most important things, I've seen this myself, and I've heard this, you know, a lot of other people in different fields of art talk about this, but horizontal lines are very important to keep straight, because even more important than the up and down, the vertical and all that, because your eye sees if these lines start to, and even here I can see a little bit my line, see, and that's why it's good to have my line started to go a little bit up. And the more you draw, the more you'll start to see that. So, and it's good to catch it, it's really good to catch it in the pencil lines, because once you start to paint the engine, it starts to be pretty difficult to catch it. And you see the next break of the orange, and it goes right through these rear intakes. So, and it's a little bit above the handrail, so you basically kind of say, okay, that's a little above 1.5 inches, and 1.5 inches is 48, so right above that is 50. And 50 is kind of a nice round number, but you don't really, if it had been 51, I would even say 51. But the thing about it is that you want to mark several areas, because you do not want that line to start going down and up and down and up. You want that line to go straight across, because just like all these other little areas I've talked about where the grills get, you know, skewed, this is probably the most important part of your drawing. Really, it really is this line being straight. I mean, there's other parts too, like you want your paint to be smooth, that kind of stuff, but this line being straight is a very, very important part of your drawing. That's how seriously this line needs to be taken. Because your eye will look at that paint break where the orange and the red separate, and it will look for it to be straight.